like to call the meeting to order of the Board of Leavenworth County Commission. I'd like to invite everyone to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the record, all three commissioners are present. I'd like to start with a moment of silence. I'd like to start with public comment. Honor public comment of a citizen desiring to speak on an item that is directly relevant to the County Commission business may do so at this time. We'd ask that a speaker refrain from making personal, rude, slanderous remarks against any persons, individuals, personnel issues, or pending legal matters shall not be discussed in open meetings, including the citizen comment portion of the meeting. So anyone at this time wishing to speak, please come forward and state your name and address. Seeing none, we'll move on.
I'd like to ask a question.
Yes, sir.
When is going to be the appropriate time for us to give our little...
On our consent agenda?
After the consent, no, us personally, when I have some things that I want to say to...
Administrative business.
Speaking, sir.
Administrative business.
On this agenda, it's called announcements.
Announcements. I figured we'd do it at the end on the consent agenda.
Very good.
So like I have a couple reports I'd like to reference today.
Yeah.
Is that administrative or is that?
Under this agenda, it's just referred to as announcements.
Announcement and reports.
Directly after the consent agenda.
Okay, down at the bottom.
Okay. All right. Were you wishing to speak?
Yeah, about my plat.
Oh, well, that'll be coming up.
Okay.
That is on, what did I do with that? Regular agenda. That'll be under planning and zoning at this time. So, do we have any presentations at this time?
I know it lists on here the work session, but the work session is actually at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
We'll adjourn our regular meeting and then go into a work session to discuss the sales tax projects and roads.
Okay, so we want to move on to planning and zoning then?
We do have a consent agenda.
Okay.
We have to wait in.
Oh, public comment?
Yes, I apologize for being late.
All right, we'll excuse you this time.
Excuse me, I ran a block. Too old to do that. I got the letter from Mr. Jack. Have you all had a chance to read it?
I have.
Okay, well, my comments...
Commissioner, you got it?
I didn't get the letter.
It was an email.
Would you like a copy? I happen to have a copy.
And that was referring to the questions that Mr. Lawfrey.
Right. I thought these were going to be public comments that Mr. Lawfrey would read.
I received the letter from Mr. Jack and forwarded it to the board and to Ms. Sturgeon.
I have one copy. Okay, the first part of that letter talked about Project Green. Project Green wasn't something that I just plucked out of the air. It was used as an example of how the Tongi people had chased off, industry. And so I asked for clarification about that. I think what's interesting about the Project Green comments in the letter is what's not there. in that it didn't say, golly, this was not tied to Tyson, it was not clean industry. That's not what it said. It just talked about the importance of confidentiality. And I do understand the need for that, but I think since it was raised as an example of donkey chasing off an industry, that perhaps we could have gotten some clarification, if not a name, certainly an industry, certainly that it was not tied to Tyson. That wasn't said. I think the other thing that's interesting about the letter, another thing, is that they said, Steve said, that the LCDC and the LCPA do not vet any of these projects, that they leave it up to the cities and the counties to do the vetting. Doug, I heard you say, and I went back and looked at it again last night, on the August 31st meeting, where you approved the bonds, you said, I'm sure this has been studied. And you were told, yes, it had. Now, the comments were also aimed at cost benefit, dollars and cents. I think you were asking for more than that. I can't say for sure. But at any rate, I think one of the things we know now is that there's not any vetting for quality of life on these projects. And I think that's a mistake. Or at least you all know that when it comes to your plate, that nobody's vetted it for quality of life. So I would ask that you would do that in the future. The last thing that I thought was interesting was that on Monday when I asked who they reported to, you all said, well, they have their own board of directors, they don't report to us. Mr. Jack thinks that they do report to you. So I think it's curious that nobody knows who they report to, or at least there's some confusion about who they report to. But given that they have acknowledged that they report to you, I would ask you, as their supervisors, to ask them to permit public comments at all of their meetings, that their minutes, including the draft minutes, be published on their website, as yours are, and that also published on their website would be their agenda for the meeting and the packet of information that's discussed at the meeting. When those of us of the public go to any of these meetings, there are books that are distributed to everybody but us. And yesterday at the Port Authority meeting, there were several of us there. We were ushered to the seats around the edge of the room. There were people at the table that were not board members, and they in fact got books. We were not offered books. Now, did I go up and rattle somebody's cage and say, I want a book? No, I did not. But I think if we're gonna, the public's invited, there's information that's discussed and distributed that the public is not privy to. So I would like that information. I don't care if I get a book or not, but if it's published online, as yours is, every meeting, then at least we'd know the topic of conversation. Okay? I appreciate your help in getting this. I appreciate Mr. Jack giving it to me. I'm sorry that it had to be this complicated, and again, I apologize for being late.
All right, thank you. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Mr. Myers?
Steve Myers, 22249 219th. These restrictions that you're putting on us, when's the proper time to make a personal attack in the meeting if we don't do it now?
I guess to get on the agenda.
I mean, here a while back, I heard a story about some lost personal information, and it sounded like the same story I used in the 3rd grade about my homework. nobody I know believed it.
Right, right.
I mean, what are we,
That is a serious issue.
when's the proper time to make a personal attack on that? You know, I'd like to know at least if it was a fairy tale or an out-and-out lie, you know?
So would I.
I would like to know, when they cooked up this lie, if there was alcohol involved. I mean, it's the only way I can explain it.
You know.
And now you want to restrict us on calling out something like that?
No, I don't want to restrict anybody from public comment, but I guess our legal issues is what we're dealing with on some of it. But you're absolutely right about the personnel records. It needs to be looked into.
Well, I mean, the guy that got his records disclosed,
Right.
I don't know why he's not suing the county.
Neither do I.
And then you have a closed meeting right after that, and the guy that's involved in it, he doesn't want to give the open records back, or the closed records back for safekeeping.
I'd like to answer that.
Okay.
I did that for a point, and my point was that commissioners don't always give records back. And this commission was trying to blame HR for the leak. And
We know where that leak came from.
yes, we do. I referenced it in my letter.
No, we don't believe what you tell us.
Well,
I
that's.
mean, you've proved to me how honest you are.
Doesn't do-
You can shake your head all you want.
It doesn't do any good to talk to you because you're,
No, it doesn't. I don't believe anything you say.
I don't believe anything you say.
Well,
Mr.
I haven't
Myers.
lied to you, though.
Mr. Myers, I'll go on record as saying I've always returned personnel records back to the county administrator.
Okay, so what?
I have always returned anything back that was shared with us in an executive session. I've never kept anything.
Well, my suggestion would be a shock collar, but you probably can't do that in 2017.
But-
So maybe you could have the administrator read the personnel records to you and never give them to the commissioners. I mean, the county can't afford to risk having having a lawsuit. You evidently didn't have one this time, but you dodged a bullet.
It could still happen.
Yes. So I guess I'm going to have to ask the two sane commissioners to protect the county. And as far as your restrictions on our personal speech, I'm embarrassed by what's going on here, and you can't very well restrict this from calling somebody out on bad behavior. I mean, you just can't coach that.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Then we'll close this portion of public comment. Do we want to move on to planning and zoning?
You have the consent agenda.
Okay, you want to go ahead and approve the consent agenda? Commissioners had a chance to look at everything on the consent agenda.
I'm just trying to figure out what is really on the consent agenda.
Well, we've got a board member to appoint.
Yes,
We have the minutes to approve,
okay,
and we have the OCPs.
right, okay, that is on there, so, in approving that in mass, let's say, when is the time that we will be able to correct maybe an error that somebody...
If you have anything on the consent agenda you have concern about, you can pull it out. We can deal with that.
Yeah, I know that, but I don't want to pull it out because basically
And we could discuss it.
I guess I could pull it out and say, hey, yeah, I guess that'd work. Yeah, let's pull out the minutes, okay?
Okay.
I'd like to pull out the KCATA Advisory Board member.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, agenda.
So first, on the two remaining items on the consent agenda, can we go ahead and approve that?
The OCBs.
Which would be the OCBs and the agenda.
Motion to approve the
Yes.
On the
OCBs.
agenda.
Okay,
Motion to approve the
Second.
OCBs for the chairman to sign and date.
second it.
Would it be a proper motion to be the two items on the consent agenda?
Yeah, to approve the
Well-
remaining consent agenda.
Okay,
The two items left on the consent agenda, motion to
I'm gonna
approve.
second that too.
Okay.
All right, voting?
Aye.
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 Are you folks having trouble hearing back here? You got,
That's going to be my first thought. I think it's on. It's just, occasionally I like to look at people. I'd like to get the mics for up here that attach, so I don't have to, look at John and
Sure.
Okay.
want to talk to John. I can still do that. I think that's something that we need to do, so we don't have to worry about the professional attitude towards a mic, which is talking directly into the mic. Then you don't see. We also look for eye motion, what's going on in the eyes. You got to look for everything. That's the gentleman that back there looking around the head. I want to see what's in. So I think we need to get the mics. If I can have a consensus on that. I know somebody said, well, that's $650.
each.
Yeah.
Each.
$650.
But I think people that are watching this on YouTube are not being able to hear it either.
Yeah,
No, I agree. I mean,
It would be nice that our microphones are like yours,
Mhm.
directly in front of your voice.
Mhm.
I have to scoot over here and get, I guess I can bring everything down this way, and then I'll be in front of it.
right. And if we're going to have a system like giving tickets because you're going 60 in a 40-mile zone, if we're not going to enforce what we think we need to have, then there's no sense having the mic. Then I know that I can not have that on, and I can say, it's been brought to my attention, and I'm sure everybody can hear that. But in this case, I'm playing tail chase with a microphone. And so I think we need to get the microphone so we can be as professional as putting it on the TV has been. So that was, so I'll finish the minutes, okay?
all right.
Right after administrative business, it said Commissioner Klemp commented that within the next 60 days, one word was left out, 20 to 25 miles of roads and Eisenhower. Not a big deal, but it'd be nice to have that in the minutes. And about the back page, a motion made by Klemp and seconded by Smith to approve a bill. Does anybody know what the bill was? Somebody pulling up the minutes.
Bill for legal services presented by Roger Marsh.
Right. And that is very important to a lot of people. What are we paying for that lawyer? So, because was it a bill as in a resolution, an ordinance, or was it a bill? Well, it was the bill to pay the lawyer for his time and effort. So that's the only thing I had that I think, yes, ma'am.
Commissioner, with respect, could we state that when we make the motion? Because the motion was to approve a bill. I didn't know what the bill was.
Okay.
So we need to clarify what the bill is. So I can-
It was the legal bill for the attorney?
Okay.
Scott Ryber,
Right. So,
and the amount,
right, and it was a 2-to-1 vote.
right?
So, that's all I had on the minutes.
Commissioner Holland, you had something on the minutes?
No, I didn't have anything on the minutes.
Okay.
Mine was on the KCAT Advisory Board
Okay.
member. are we going to have a discussion on that, or have you already picked somebody that I don't know about?
So did you want to now approve the minutes?
Yeah,
with
let's
those-
go ahead
with
and
those
take a
changes?
motion to approve the minutes.
I'll move to approve the minutes of the 23rd of October.
Second?
Voting.
Aye.
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 Okay. And we'll move on to KCAT. Okay.
So actually, the person who had sent an application to be on this, is traveling and didn't get back in time, at the time they thought they would, so they weren't able to attend this morning. So they actually did reach out to us and ask us to move this to next week if possible, because they would like to be here.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
if that would be okay with you all,
That's
just
fine
have
with
them on
me.
next week.
So are we taking applications now?
We received an application, we put it to the board to consider. So if other people have applied, I'm not aware of any.
So did we put any advertisement out, or did we reach out to other cities? Because I did check into the KCAT requirements, and they said that you have to be an elected official, but at the time you're elected, you can also be a former elected official and still be on the KCAT board. So I think we dismissed someone from the KCAT board because he was a former county commissioner. And because these two gentlemen have a problem with him, he was released, and his term, the former commission, which was Mr. Smith was a part of, we agreed to let him have, to finish out his term, which would have been in March. But Mr. Klemp saw it fit to terminate him immediately. And we know what, as past record shows, that he was constantly badgering Commissioner Bixby. And I just think that this ought to have some discussion to it, because I've done some research into this, and I look forward to next week.
We'll put it on as a regular agenda item for next month.
On Monday.
Okay. Now are we ready for planning and zoning?
Well, you do have your announcements and reports if there was something.
Yep.
Oh, well, did you want to do that now or at the end of the meeting?
It shows it at the
Good
end of the
choice.
meeting.
Okay, we can.
I'd rather do it at the end. Let's get staff back on track here.
Very
I hate to
good.
see them.
You're running the meeting.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
This is case number DEB 17-093094. It's a preliminary and final plat for a 3-lot subdivision to be known as Sarles Addition. As you may be aware from reading the minutes, the Planning Commission has recommended to approve this preliminary and final plat, subject to a condition that the applicant obtain a special use permit prior to the recording of the final plat with the Register of Deeds. It's Planning and Zoning's belief that the applicant is operating a business from his home, which would require a special use permit. The Planning Commission agreed that they believe he was also, they also believe that he is operating a business from his home. Mr. Sarles is here along with his surveyor that will answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, does this require a public hearing?
No, sir.
Okay, would the applicant wish to speak at this time?
Yes.
Larry Sarles here, and trying to get this deal done, which I was told by the county was pretty much a slam dunk deal, and I haven't seen that yet because of the special use permit deal, which is totally two separate issues here. I mean, totally. So I don't know what the problem is with that. I can go into detail if you'd like, but it's going to be a lengthy, detailed deal with the special use deal, which I think is two separate issues. I'm here just to get the plat deal taken care of today. And if there's a lot to this special use deal, which I don't know if we want to take all these people's time up right now on that matter. I'm just here I'm totally with doing whatever the special permit deal is, but there's going to have to be some things addressed before I will obtain to that at this time. I don't know if you guys have got a letter, explaining that situation. My wife had did a letter to you all,
Right.
so I'm hoping you'd read it and you might understand a little bit of the situation.
Yeah, but on the stipulation, it was just asking you to apply for a special use permit. And I guess
But-
at that time, the planning board would,
Is trying to hold it against me for some reason, which has nothing to do with the plat deal. This plat deal was started long before this special use permit. And they've already taken my money, cashed the check, which we were told it was a slam dunk deal, basically, and they're holding it against me. And it has to do with me and Mrs. Johnson, I believe. I believe she has a vendetta for me, but that's my opinion. But I don't want to go into detail with that right now.
well, the way I read this, it was just, they were asking you to apply for a special use permit, and then it'd be determined at that time whether you really needed one. Is that?
Well, I feel I don't need one because I don't actually have a business there. Only thing I have there is my mailing address. I do have a vehicle that leaves every day, just like every other person that works, that has a company truck. I don't work there. My truck goes out on the job every day and comes back every day, just like any other person that works for any other company that drives a company vehicle home. You know, I've had my mailing address there. I've lived there for almost 20 years. It has not changed. Even when I had my business not in Lebanon County, I had a special use permit a long time ago. And then I moved it to Douglas County because I was tired of all this BS. And that's what I did. I still get my mail there at the time. So I don't know what the problem is here. I'm here to do the divide. That's what I'm here for. If they want to deal with the special use permit, we've got to sit down and talk about this neighbor deal.
You read these reports? Have
I
you guys
have,
had any
yeah.
comments?
Yes,
I
I
think
have.
Bob was going to say something on it.
All right.
Well, I wanted to ask you, you said that you're not actually running a business out of your home?
No, sir. I get my mail there. I
Well,
do get my mail, and I do have a truck that shows up there sometimes, but a lot of times my truck will park on a job site. And sometimes when I do bring it home, I bring it home and I use the material. I'm a tree service. I use the material around my place. I burn my own wood, and I have mulch. I have a huge property I take care of. I mulch around my trees, around my ponds to keep the weed down and erosion down. But I'm not here to deny, I mean, if they want me to have a special use permit, I don't have a problem with it, but they're gonna have to do something with the guy across the road. He needs a special use permit. He's a junker. I can go into detail, but it would take too long.
Can you give us a chance to perform here?
Yes, I'm just here, sir, to do the lot split.
You have feelings, we want to perform. Mr. Holland's he has a statement, I'm going to come across with something, and so we'll see if we can perform for you. If you don't like it then, you know, that creates a problem for all of us. So can we listen to him and then listen to me and maybe?
Yes, sir, I'm all ears.
Thank you.
okay, what I was going to ask you, to determine a business is, maybe it's kind of like someone that mows lawns. They use their home as their mailing address, their billing address. They use it in advertisements online as to contact you at this phone number, at this address. So is that what you're doing?
I do, I have to get my mailing, I have to live, I have to get checks.
So in part, your home is part of your business, is what you're saying.
I get mail there, just like you get mail, sir, right?
But I guess maybe you're missing my point. My point is, I get personal mail there.
I get personal
my gas
mail.
bill, I get my electric bill, I get my water bill, I get, you know, junk mail, and lots of junk mail. And, but you get business mail there. You get probably equipment salesmen send you information. I don't know. I'm just grasping at straw. I'm trying to make you understand what I'm looking at. And I think that, yes, do you have another place that you can sit down and figure your bill? Say you come out and you take a tree down for me.
My truck is my office. My truck is my office. I
So
can
you
set you
fig-
in
you-
my truck.
You sit in your truck and
Yes,
figure all
sir.
your bills?
Yes,
and
sir. I do
pay all your bills?
my estimates. I do whatever I need to do in that truck. My truck is my office.
Okay. I guess that's what I wanted to hear.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner
Clem.
Flynn?
See, I like an 8-0 vote. I don't even want to hear anything about something, because they get to hear the whole process. It sounds like to me there are two issues here,
Absolutely.
but I wasn't there to listen to the whole issue. Do we have two issues here?
Good morning, Commissioners. Based on our research, we are recommending, staff is recommending that they get a special use permit. Right now, they are applying for a plat, and the property is not in compliance. So what we recommended is that they obtain a special use permit alongside the plat. So when they get the plat approved, they can apply for the special use permit and get that approved as well. When we took it to the Planning Commission is also recommending that they get a special use permit. And they added a condition. It states that they have to apply and obtain a special use permit before they can record the plat.
When you say not in compliance, what does that mean?
That means that they are running a business, they are without a permit. So that makes the property not in compliance.
Okay, so something has come up with the fact that there's a business there. So it really doesn't have, what we're trying to do is get it in compliance.
That's what we're trying to do. So they can get the plat approved as well as the special use permit.
That's interesting. To get it in compliance, they apply for the special use permit. Special use permit allows them to have the business there. They are now in compliance if they have the special use permit.
Yeah, once they get the special use permit, they'll be in compliance.
Do we see a problem with them getting an approval of a special use permit?
I don't see a problem. And again, it's up to the Planning Commission and the board, so.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to move that we remand this back to the Planning Commission
To separate it,
to separate it. Yeah,
to separate the two issues.
two issues. It's, you know,
I'll second.
yeah, can't get going with one, you're not going to get going with the other, so it's just going to stand in limbo. So that's what I'm going to do, and I hope you can. find
Yes, sir. I totally agree with you. It's totally two separate issues.
Thank you very much.
Got a motion and a second?
Yep.
Voting?
Aye.
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 You want to add anything? Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, this is case number DEB-17106. It's a special use permit request from Mr. Don Land. Mr. Land constructs and sells meat smokers at his property. He indicates that he builds and sells no more than 30 per year. He obtains the materials necessary for building the smokers from a local hardware store. He advertises mostly online, Craigslist, and by word of mouth. Again, he has no employees. All construction is done in a garage that is on his property. We've had no complaints about Mr. Land. The Planning Commission voted 8-0 to recommend approval of his case. There is a public hearing required, and there is a resolution.
We'll open up the public hearing portion of this. Anyone here wishing to speak for this application? Anyone wishing to speak against? And we'll close this portion of public hearing.
Move to approve with stipulations.
You got a motion?
Second.
And with the stipulations, you want to
Do I want to read them? No.
No, okay, all right. All right, we got a motion and a second. Voting?
Aye.
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 We need to approve the resolution, Commissioner. 60.
60. I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2017-60 for, what's the name of the business?
Dawn's.
Seconded.
R&D Smokers. That's my motion.
Second.
Voting?
Aye.
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 I want to have a question on that. Is there not a way that we can approve the chairman signing those? Because it's asking for 3 signatures, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I see it.
On the resolution?
Yeah, on all resolutions. You know,
Mr. Chairman, members of this board, good morning. You can individually sign that resolution, or the minutes could reflect that the motion was made to authorize, to approve the resolution and authorize the chairman to sign on behalf of the board.
I'd like to see that in future, just personal opinion.
Okay.
I mean, it's in the minutes how you voted, so, okay, thank you.
Commissioners, this is case number DEB-17109. This is an amendment to the Leavenworth County Comprehensive Plan. The only thing that this amendment is doing is that it's taken into account for the last 3 years, properties that have been rezoned and approved by the Board of County Commissioners to change the zoning, perhaps from a rural residential to a business zoning or something such as that. We have a number of them from 2014 through 2017 to date. We're asking your approval so that we can update the future land use map to indicate to reflect the changes, and of course, the Planning Commission voted 8-0 to recommend approval of this amendment to the comprehensive plan.
Commissioners have any questions on that?
None?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Voting?
Aye.
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 Sorry, Commissioners, there is a public hearing required.
Oh.
Here's the resolution.
Thank you.
Okay, then we'll open this portion of the public hearing for the change of the land use. Anyone here wishing to speak for? Anyone wishing to speak against the change? Seeing none, we'll close this portion of public hearing. Now, I take a
Would we have to revote?
Yeah.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Voting? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And
There's a resolution also.
okay. In the future,
Resolution
what I
number-
would like, I'd like to see it down here that
2017-61. Motion to
Second that.
approve.
I'll second that.
We got some discussion on it.
Oh, yeah, it's just that it'd be nice to have that on there because we don't memorize, and probably it said it in here somewhere, but I don't like sitting at home reading documents and documents and documents and trying to be professional, and I don't know what the motion should be. I can always say, refer it back to the planning board, but some things we just want to pass, get on down the line, so.
We get on to more important things like roads, huh?
No, everything's important.
I know. So we got a motion and a second?
Aye.
Voting?
Aye.
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 Is that resolution 61, right? Commissioners, this is case number DEB-17118. This is a request for a temporary special use permit from Mrs. Sarah Hiss. Mrs. Hiss and her husband, they have a group that meets at their home on a somewhat regular basis. That is not the impetus for the temporary special use permit. However, they hold meetings for a group called the Caw Valley Young Life Program. And on November 5th, they are intending to invite the parents of students who may be interested in this program to come to their home in order to hear a presentation to learn more about the program. They're expecting approximately 100 individuals to come to this. Mrs. Hiss just wanted to make sure that she had all of her ducks in a row, so she has asked for a temporary special use permit. Again, this is only for this one event. It's not for the gathering of youth that occurs on a more regular basis. This is only because they're providing information to the public. Mrs. Hiss is here and will answer any questions that you may have. Staff is, of course, recommending approval of this subject to a number of conditions
TSUP, is there any like time restraints or like, does it start at midnight or, you know?
She is indicating that people will be there between 5:45 and 6. She indicates that they'll be finished by 8:30. We've asked that everybody clear the property by 9 o'clock, just to give her a little bit of time on that day.
Is this Miss Hiss?
I am Sarah Hiss, yes.
Well, you know what's going to happen? Now I'm going to be against it because you came up and talked.
What? Oh, I'm sorry, I'll go back. I thought that's what I'm supposed to do.
That's good. That's good. That's good. I like people coming to the mic.
I'll be honest with you, if I had 100 people coming over my house, I don't think I'd come up and ask the county's blessing.
No.
Well, we weren't sure if we needed to, but somebody suggested that we might need to, so I thought, I don't want to get in trouble. I'll ask.
Your husband going to have to help with cleaning up the house and all that, you know?
Well, it'll be out in an outbuilding, so it doesn't matter what the house looks like.
You got a two-holer out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, go ahead.
I guess I just was shocked that somebody would apply for a permit for
Okay, so what you're saying is it's not necessary.
No, I'm not saying anything. I'm saying I wouldn't have done it.
Okay,
And I'll go on record as saying.
okay.
Sorry. Commissioners, we should open this up for a public hearing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
We do not need a resolution, though.
All right, well, we'll open this up for public hearing. Anyone here wishing to speak for this special use permit? Anyone here wishing to speak against it? I'd say we'll close this portion of public hearing.
I move to approve.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Are we,
Commissioners.
talk about the,
Mr. Chairman, I have one more item that I would like to
oh,
discuss before.
don't somebody having a party now? There's gonna be 50 people there?
Just wanted to update you on the RFQ for the land use study for County Road 1. We received RFQs back, and then we selected one of the qualified one, and we would like to move forward with the RFP. So I need your approval to move forward.
Has anyone approached the city of Tongi about participation in this?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
We
Are
are.
they willing to participate financially in this, or just participate?
Well, they haven't committed to anything yet.
Okay.
Still under discussion with them.
Okay.
I'm including.
But I can see where it would benefit the city of Tongi.
I do too. I think they would want to benefit us, contribute. It's kind of like the 27 committee. We're the only ones that contribute. Plant City we'll just take all the military people coming over here.
Does Missouri, I'm not trying to get off subject here, but does Missouri have some kind of a statute that says they can't contribute to that?
I haven't heard of it. I asked the 27 committee when they were here the last time if Plant County would contribute because it benefits them greatly.
Yes.
And I think they should contribute, but I don't know about that.
I thought
They
there
never,
was something like that.
they never referenced it when I asked the question.
Okay.
And that would be in the time to reference it,
All right, on the,
not to change subject.
yeah,
Sorry
I
about
wasn't
that.
trying to get off topic, but anyway, on the land use study we've been talking about for a long time. This is
Kind of hit
pretty
the same
important.
spot.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that they should help financially
Right.
on this. I'm not
See,
saying.
that land use, that took place where I got here. So are all the cities involved? Who?
This is the County Road 1.
Yeah,
land
this
use.
Oh, the county.
Yeah, this isn't the mother lode
Well,
here. This isn't the big one. This is one we can actually probably afford.
Well, yeah, I suppose that we rezone it right now and get on down the road, we just keep playing around. So, but that's all right.
Well, that was kind of promised when the turnpike interchange on the 96, or the 2006 sales tax. Yeah.
But if that's time to get on down and get that.
It is.
Rezoned and so people can know what they do. We keep putting it off. I hear that, and it's time to remove that aspect.
10 years is long enough,
Yep.
I think. On that, Is there going to be a lot of legal issues doing this study?
Yes, sir.
I mean, is this something we need to look at, maybe an outside, getting a price for an outside legal firm, or to look at, to even just work on all planning and zoning issues? Because like I said, we got one guy doing 3 people's jobs here. Planning and zoning's a little, I mean, I don't know how many hours a week or a month that Mr. Van Perry's or anybody would spend on planning and zoning, but I think it's a kind of a specialized area. I mean, is it possible to go out for price quotes to see if there's...
You're talking about professional services to assist planning and zoning with the day-to-day issues that they come across, which would include this.
And include the land use study, working along with the land use study, because I think it's a big deal. I mean, that's just my opinion. I haven't ran this by Mark or even Mr. Van Perry's, but just outside looking in, it looks like you guys got a lot of stuff that takes some legal.
That's correct.
Okay. Any thoughts?
I see the...
David?
Oh, Mr. Van Perry's.
Again, Commissioners, if I could, with respect to the land use study for the County Road 1 corridor, if I could offer this suggestion, rather than selecting a firm to initiate the study of the land use for that corridor in conjunction with considerations by the City of Tonganoxie, and hire a law firm or legal counsel for that, you might wish to ask the land use planner to identify what legal issues, if any, may need the services of that attorney or law firm, so that you don't, quite frankly, run into any avoidable costs. In other words, perhaps determine what legal issues need to be considered and then bring in either in-house counsel or outside counsel, rather than starting at the very beginning with legal considerations.
Good idea.
How many, I guess this, how many hours a month do you spend on planning and zoning issues and code enforcement, stuff like that?
Well, Commissioner, sometimes I think some things are best left unexplained, but I do spend a considerable amount of time.
That's kind of what I thought.
But I think it's a good idea. Let the,
Yeah.
rather than get the horse, everybody you want to call it.
But we
Well,
seem
maybe-
like we have a lot of planning and zoning issues.
Maybe what we could do is, let's proceed with this, because it has been 10 years in the offing, with getting the RFP put together, which will have to come back to this board for approval once we get into the RFP. And then have Mr. Joseph maybe do a report on what that assistance could be. So, other than just the County Road 1 plan.
Right.
Maybe have him, and if he needs to work with Mr. Van Persie, he could prepare a report that explains why that would be, they could utilize those services other than just for
Right.
County Road.
Very good.
And then, obviously, right now, probably we wouldn't recommend doing anything on a permanent or full-time, but maybe on an as-needed basis.
Right, yeah, I'm not saying nothing like, I'm just saying.
I think that's great. We'd be Washington, right? They've been on it for 7 years. We're on 10 years. And how long were we on 107th Street?
207?
207th Street. That's 15 years, I think.
That's
Oh,
still
no, it's
counting.
been longer than that.
Well, I'm trying
That
to
was
be
early
generous.
90s. Yeah. You were a
Okay.
commissioner then, I believe,
Right.
when the first time we rebuilt it.
Yep, that's true.
That's true. So, anyway, we got anybody prepared to make a motion on Mr. Joseph's
Motion to approve.
Second.
voting? Aye.
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 Thank you. Are we ready for the work session on discussion sales tax?
Well, you had mentioned that we would move the announcements and reports to the end of the regular meeting. We should do those prior to any work session, because we will adjourn from the regular meeting.
Okay. So you want to do the announcements and reports now?
Yeah, which would
All
be,
right.
we did have one that came up from the Council on Aging, which was authorized, asking the
Yeah.
board to approve them to, letter of support for them
You
to
see
apply
that?
for
For a grant?
their annual grants. It just came up. They'd like to move forward with that. It's just so they can apply for their annual grants. It's a letter of support.
It's pretty standard.
Pretty standard grant.
I think it's probably been approved for 10, 12 years in a row.
Right.
My
Yeah.
guess would be.
Okay. So we need a motion to...
Yes, sir.
To allow, I guess, the Council on Aging to apply for a federal grant, USC 49-5310, Enhancement Mobility of Seniors and Individuals with Disabilities, fiscal year July 2018, June 2019. So I move to approve that.
Second.
Voting?
Aye.
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 Anything else?
That's all I had. Anybody else have any?
I have some things.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I do too.
These are keys to Mr. Van Perry's office. Happen to be my office. I don't need an office. I hate to say that. I want to thank you, Bob. I did read this on the roundabouts. And only one thing wrong about this, and I asked staff I want pros and cons about roundabouts, because I think it needs to be studied a little bit more, but this was an editorial. I don't like editorials. They
Well,
don't-
I have some more information today.
So, staff is hopefully getting me something, pros and cons. I have a motion here. I move to reinstate David Van Paris as senior county counselor, instruct him to work with the county administrator on a salary based on the current county pay plan, and to reinstate his 27 years of longevity with the county, as well as sick leave he lost as of December 14, 2016, and to provide 160 hours, 4 weeks of vacation up front with no waiting period on health insurance. That's my motion.
Would that part of your motion be relinquishing his contract he has for as we have him in private
Yeah,
contractor?
it wasn't in there, yes. It wasn't in there. He has to relinquish that to become this.
Okay. I guess if Mr. Van Perry is willing to do that.
Commissioner, was that motion seconded?
I'll second that motion.
Commissioner Smith, in answer to your query, the response would be yes. I would relinquish the contract I'm operating under now and accept that. I would like to state, Commissioner Klemp, I appreciate this. It's somewhat of a surprise, so if I am tongue-tied, I'll tell you that. I just want to say, I started working for Leavenworth County in May of 1990, and Commissioner Holland, you might lose it. When I started in May of 1990, the county had announced that it was about to finish 207th Street. So if anything, someday that may be done. I would accept the proposal submitted by Mr. Klemp, and I will give you my word, I intend to work for Leavenworth County to my best abilities.
Got a motion and a second? Voting?
Aye.
Aye.
Before I vote, I'd like to reference a policy that has with this county that anyone that is terminated for cause cannot be reelected.
Well, I'd like to see that in the policy, and if it is in the policy, I'll move that be removed from the policy as of the 26th at, what time is it here? 9:53. So if that is in there, I'll do the amendment to the motion to remove that part of the policy, because there's some other things that were put into the policy that I just don't care for when it's talking about nepotism. I really don't want to get into nepotism in Leavenworth County. You cannot have a county this size with parents that have kids that respect the decisions they have made and not get into nepotism. I don't want to go into Wyandotte County for every replacement, because there's probably somebody in Wyandotte County that's going to be related to me. And I don't know it. So if that is a policy, I vote to remove that immediately so we can go ahead and go through with hiring Mr. Van Paris. So,
Is that a motion?
that's a motion.
Second?
Aye.
Voting? Aye.
Nay. So what
Okay.
about the first motion?
Do we need to redo the first motion?
Gentlemen, if I could offer assistance on this, although I do have some self-interest in this, I believe Commissioner Klump's motion was made, seconded, and then was under discussion. If there is subsequent action, that probably should be the subject of a separate motion. And just for clarification, this is for senior county council.
That's correct.
Thank you, Jeff.
I think that what they were saying is you had a motion and a second.
Yeah, and
You have to finish that before we take another motion and a second.
And we vote.
However, I will,
oh no, it's under discussion.
But you added the policy portion
Yeah.
of it.
I have pointed out prior to this board that this board sets policy and therefore this board can exempt policy as well, so.
Okay, I'll call for my motion. How's that? Does that help?
So you'd be voting on the first motion, which
Yes.
was to name Mr. Van Paris as senior county
Yes.
council.
So I call for my motion.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
There we go. Is there anything else we need to clear up here very rapidly?
Well, you had a second motion that you had considered, which was to remove
That portion out of the
that
policy.
portion of the policy.
But
Um,
we've also stated we can make policy.
That's
So we
true.
really don't need that.
We can waive the policy.
You could waive that policy for this
Okay.
motion, and obviously your motion and vote would do that. I would like to, if the intent though is that the board wants that language removed, we can bring back for you. I wouldn't recommend you do it on the fly. We would bring back in a formal policy for you.
I like the slide, but there's about 5 or 6 things in there that I don't like. And it has to do with the same, what was that word you used? Bovine something, I don't
If
know.
you would like to give me a list of those, I could definitely,
Okay.
that way I can get that section of the policy manual.
Recently added, I'm going to go on and read it. They were recently added in the new policy changes, which had to do with nepotism.
I think we have several items that are ready to come to the board for
Right.
consideration, and those would be part of it.
Thank
It
you.
was supposed to be the first part of November, so, which is going to be here before we know it.
Yes.
So, anyway, anything else?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
I am now involved. I think it's so interesting. The courts are really not my friend. You know, they like to elongate, give jobs to their people. That's lawyers. Ask me the question. Don't beat around the bush and make me go out and hire a lawyer. It's not game time for me. I'm involved with a, what do we call that? And I know somebody will want to go into executive session, but I don't believe in executive sessions anymore. Sometimes you can leave names out. I'm not leaving my name out. That somebody wants me to have to verify that I didn't get together with, I've even forgotten his name. Oh, Commissioner Smith. It says right here, certificate of election results, okay? Up until the 9th of October, I could talk to Mr. Holland or Mr. Smith, actually to the 10th, because Mr. Klemp was sworn in on the 11th day. Now, the 9th and 10th, of course, you know, I went to school back in the 40s and 50s. I may have been going to school in the 30s. Grandpa may have been schooling then, I don't know. But I think the 9th and 10th fall before the 11th. Can anybody verify it doesn't? Well, see, that's good. Because until I swear, and I don't think I've sworn here yet, which was on the 11th day of October, I'm not in office. So, human resource, and I don't know whether it's a man or woman down there, it's just a person. has brought me into where I'm going to have to talk to the courts, and they don't want to hear what I got to say. Because I can simply answer, because here are all the documents. Certificate of election results, letter from the Secretary of State, where there's one in here on the 12th, which was just something later came from, I think, Secretary of State, and when I was sworn in. A simple answer to that question: I did not talk to this man over here, I don't even know if I've been polite to him.
You have not?
No. This can simply be answered in court of law. Understand this. This is a damn lie. So I've now sworn. I don't like anybody accusing me of doing things that are improper. This is a damn lie. So somebody, if there's any nepotism, needs to get that word back to that individual that filed that report, and I'm going to give that to the administrator, and he can do with it as he sees fit, okay? I don't like that. That's in poor taste. And that's what's happened in this county. We've gotten in poor taste. I also went down and asked for I didn't ask for anybody else. I wanted to see my personal record from 1978. Okay, that's fine. I know it isn't here. Is it filed in the salt mines out in Manhattan? I don't know where they're filed, but I know we do have things filed out there. I just want to see my personal files. I don't want to see his. I want to see mine. If I want to see his, then I probably have to take 2 county commissioners. One can't ask for it. But I can ask for my own. And the answer I get, and it was respectfully submitted, I really want to help with your request this morning. But I would like to ask if you could please make your request for Mr. Lowry. When I'm asking for my personal file, I don't have to go through Mr. Lowry. Not that I object to that, but I don't like being directed there. I am happy to work on them, but I'm not sure where HR is at in the system right now, and I do not want to overstep my authority, and if you could please make your request through him, I would greatly appreciate it. No, I'm not making my request through him. I have asked for my personal file. Anybody can understand mine has a heck of a problem in life.
I think, I'm going to interject something there, Commissioner Clint, because that's at my request. I had asked him if anything came forward because of the current status of some of the issues about personnel information being leaked. I had asked him if anybody had asked for any personnel information to ask me first. That's why. So that
Okay.
that's not that employee's fault. I'm going to have to take the heat on that one.
Well, we've had a lot of heat takers in this county in the last few years, so that's all right, Mark. That's
Okay.
good.
And maybe it'll show up on the news and you won't have to go to Hutchinson
No, I may
again.
want to release it to the news. I don't know. I can release it. That's not a leak. That's me being, no, John, you're not getting it. When did Mr. Bigsby obtain the data that he innocently left on the desk at Channel 41? Does anybody know when that?
I wouldn't know when that date was.
Bob would probably know.
No. That's a good point, but surely somebody knows, was it before he left office or after?
Well, I would have to say it was before he left office. When he signed it, he obviously had access to it.
How did one commissioner do that?
Well,
I was told that for us to get information, 2 of us have to go. One can't ask for information on somebody else. I just found out I can't even ask for myself without my administrator, who I want to administrate, taking the hit for him. But I would like to know if somebody can decipher that and come up with a time, date, and everything else goes with it. I would like,
Excuse me, but
Yes.
there'd have to be an investigation for that, so.
yeah, but then we get to the sheriff and it's not his job, and then we get to the county attorney and it's not his job. We're all running for office in the future. I don't know what the problem is. You would think that they could function, and I know they have the capability because I know all of them. I like them as individuals, but somebody, and Mark, would you, if somebody else agrees with me, find out which direction we need to go to find out when it was leaked. It's a very important topic.
Well, when it was leaked, because I think we know the date that it was.
Oh, when he checked it out, everything about the leak, because, you know, as I think Mr. Smith mentioned, the time limits have not run out on that leakage. So I'd like to see that person actually maybe go to court and get $250,000, $500,000 for that leakage. And then maybe somebody at the courthouse would learn that, you know, the job stops with Harry Truman, and I guess human resource can't qualify for Harry Truman. But I'd like for Mr. Van Perry, if I get somebody else to agree with me, on what's going to happen at the meeting tomorrow with our representation and the lawyers of those that are suing us, because I have personally been asked not to do what I'm going to do Monday until after this hearing. We're not going to do this in executive session anymore, because I like the crowd that's showing up. We're going to, until we get this swamp cleared out, it's going to be interesting meetings. So I would like, if I can get somebody in agreement, what's coming out of this meeting tomorrow with the judge who's had this information for I don't know how many months, and he's probably going to say, well, I'll give you a decision, rather than saying, you know, I appreciate your input, county, I appreciate your input, members that are suing us, and supposedly the only ones that are suing us right now, 2 others are falling in line, and I don't know if you're still, if you benefit from this, but our 2 attorneys that are on leave, and our human resource lady, I don't know if there is, with you and the guy at the Public Works just fall in line because contracts have not been removed, blah, blah, blah. So I would like for, I guess, council to explain that, what's going to happen at the meeting tomorrow with the judge and the court.
Mr. Chairman, members of this commission, to my best understanding, there is a hearing scheduled tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. in the Justice Center. I believe it would be set in courtroom number 2, but if it is not, it would be in one of the 4 courtrooms that are up on the upper floor of the Justice Center, and they generally post daily the hearing status of those cases, so if you would wish, you could check with the security individuals. But at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, it's my understanding that there will be a hearing on a motion filed on behalf of the county. As to the exact nature of that motion, I've not seen it, so I can't go any further, but there will be a court hearing regarding that, and I believe it does deal with counterclaims that may have been raised, counterclaims against the county that may have been raised.
Okay, I thank you. Anybody wants to participate, I have to apologize. Okay, I cannot go. My granddaughter's at Substate, and it does take a priority over listening to a judge extend or what's going to happen. About 2 more things. From the conversations that you had yesterday, or maybe the day before, have letters been put into the files of those individuals? Mark?
Anything that would be personnel related, I would not discuss in open meeting.
I didn't say anybody's name.
It's,
I'm not going into executive session with that gentleman right there.
I understand.
I
that, but
don't even know what you're talking about.
it would be
Well, see,
personnel. It would be personnel matters that
Okay.
I would not
I
discuss
move
here.
that we direct the county administrator to put letters in the files of the individuals that he has discussed with, things happening that should not have happened, and it did happen.
Again, I say I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, that's fine. I'm better off if you don't know what I'm talking about. So that's going to be my motion. I want a letter.
Well, how can I,
If we don't-
again, I've said this
We don't realize
before.
in this society that if you're going to discuss something with somebody and you don't put it in their file, that I had a discussion over somebody showing disrespect to their boss or somebody doing something else, and I call it the, I called it the cookie fiasco. Those individuals need a letter in their file. And nobody's name's been mentioned. Bob doesn't know anything about it, and that makes me sort of happy. But he will know what about it.
I will.
So,
I thought we
that's
had
my
to have an
motion. I would
executive
like,
session for that.
I'd like to direct those letters to be put in a file. And if we don't do it, there's no sense ever correcting anybody and not putting something in their file. Hate to say that.
Would your motion be to authorize Mark to do that at his discretion if he feels
And
like?
I don't want any discretion here. I didn't come in here for 14 months to go through somebody else's discretion.
No.
I mean,
I'm not sure what, all the details, but
he can brief you on the
If it-
details, but that'd be like asking me on somebody that I worked with. Well, I talked to him, but I don't want to put a letter in their file. Joe Blow leaves and gets fired indirectly from the county, okay, or the city, or anywhere. They don't get fired. They say, it's best if you go look for another job. And then the best answer when somebody refers back to them is no comment. When they ask, well, how was Joe Blow? Was he a good employee? No comment. Because, man, you're going to have lawsuits if you say, Joe Blow, we don't have anybody here by the name Joe Blow, do we?
not that I'm aware of.
Okay, good. Joe, I didn't want to get in somebody's territory. Joe Blow was a lousy employee. You say that? Oh, my God, poor old Joe Blow. He was a lousy employee, but we're going to give him money. The court's going to give him money. That's the way the system operates. So, I really don't want to leave it up to his discretion because he's just told me he didn't put anything in their file. He may have put a letter that...
He didn't say he didn't, he just.
No.
that he
Well,
He
it's
said he
personnel.
can't, he said he couldn't talk about it.
But
Yeah, talk about it.
Which is
I think
personnel
I think
action.
any supervisor, if they have a verbal counseling session with an employee, is going to document that and put that in their file. So with that being said, I will second your motion.
Okay?
Voting,
Aye.
aye.
I'll have to say nay because I don't even know what you're talking about.
I'm sorry
I'm
about
just
that.
saying that's pretty much standard operating procedure. If you have a verbal counseling session with an employee, you're going to document it, and it will be in a file.
Now, can we get...
Preferably a locked
Thank
file.
I got
What I
that.
want to ask is how you two found out about this.
I said I
didn't know.
didn't know about it, Commissioner.
You said you don't know about
No.
it, but you're voting for it anyway.
I'm voting for the procedure.
For the procedure.
I'm voting for the procedure if Mr. Lawfrey or any supervisor has a verbal counseling session with an employee, it needs to be documented and placed in a file, and hopefully that file will be locked and not show up on the news. That was my reason for voting for that.
There was no collusion. I didn't talk to him last night, or I didn't have my wife, who's a school teacher, talk to his wife and then talk to him.
Didn't
No
say you
collusion.
did.
Well, but I can see that. I hear it running. Okay, two more things.
You
Ken-
said that two more things ago.
Yeah, I know that.
He said, I was
Can we
gonna
get
say,
any
he
money
said
back
to-
from Tonganoxie?
Do what? You mean off of the industrial park
Yeah.
funds that we gave? No, we haven't. It's not completed.
So can we get control of that money? Man, am I getting the phone calls.
We entered into an agreement with the city of Tonganoxie. I don't remember the date exactly.
Yeah, but it was done for a reason.
The agreement said that we would give them the funds up front, and that
Yeah.
they could utilize those funds with no responsibility to pay them back as long as they use them within the industrial park.
Okay? Well, that's gonna be good, and when we come up due for that $900,000, we just gave them the money to pay the $900,000. Surely and I know we're gonna improve now of how we spend money. Last thing, I took a tour yesterday with David Brewer. Now, did Dave want his name revealed? I don't care. I was really impressed. He's one of the most aggressive mayors, even better than, what's his name down in Kansas City. But we had a very enjoyable tour, and when I left the vehicle, because it has to do with how we're going to spend sales tax, what we're going to do for benefits other than roads, and I said, what I'd like to see the county do is it's nice to go out there and do $40 million worth of roads, because it's our money, but somehow we also have to have some improvement so businesses will come in, economic development. It did say that in there, 3 roads plus economic development. I'd like to see cities somehow put in they file, I want money, I'd like money for this, and we're going to cost share. There won't be any handouts, because we'd like to do this or we'd like to do that, and then staff sits down or we sit down and say, is this good for the county? We occasionally do things that are good for specific cities, but what is good for the county? What can we do other than roads? And we're talking about chip and sealing. We're not talking about high investment roads. We're talking about going out there and chip and seal. We say it's 250,000 miles, 250,000 miles. Yeah, we don't have that many. $250,000 for every mile of road. Because I went down the road yesterday, it could be chip and seal, I'm sure a lot less than that. So I would like to see that aspect, that the cities, and they do their homework and they come forward and say, we'd like to do this, and we evaluate it, and we say, well, this is good, it's a $50,000 project, and the city says they'll come up with 25. It's our money, the county's money, so it belongs to everybody. So that's the last thing I have, and I know you were.
And we'll probably get into that a little deeper
Yeah.
here in this work session, because I agree with that, and maybe even agree with the point that they would pay the difference between county standard and city standard when you're getting within the 3-mile radius of the city. But that can be discussed later. Commissioner Holland, you said you had something?
It's concerning the meetings that you were at and I was at. I was
Okay.
at 2 different meetings.
Commissioner Hall and I attended the MARC meeting yesterday, the Mid-American Regional Council.
And I
Mr.
also,
Holland is on the workforce, and I'm on the budget and personnel committee.
And I attended the David Brewer meeting.
And you attended the mayor's breakfast, I guess.
I wanted to report back that the Leavenworth County workforce and the Wyandotte County workforce were approved by the Commerce Department to receive funding from the federal government to continue on with their programs because their buildings met the standards of what we are required to have. Johnson County, which is also part of this workforce group, was not approved, but it's, how do I put this? We are changing buildings down in Overland Park, and because we don't have a set building that we can designate as their workforce building, they were not approved. But it's just a matter of a few weeks that we're going to have the building in place, and we're going to be moved into this building, and Johnson County will be approved also, no doubt. And since you brought up, you hadn't walked out the door to another meeting, that transportation, they brought up some transportation meeting, and they said, do you know what what is the most place on a road that causes fatalities?
Probably roundabouts.
Vertical curves, I imagine.
Intersections.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Intersections causes the most fatalities.
Yeah.
That's where most fatalities. And I believe Mr. Dan Zeck, young Dan Zeck, my age, I call him young,
Yeah. Okay.
was in one of the meetings, and he didn't want any more stoplights on 73 Highway. And this is a good reason to not have any more stoplights on 73 Highway. He was referencing, I believe he was referencing McIntyre Road. He said the more stoplights you have, the more accidents you're going to have. And they're doing Mark is doing a 5-year study on, because the fatalities are growing. It's getting worse. And I brought up the question of roundabouts, and they thanked me for bringing that up. And they said on most roundabouts there's around 32 what they call conflicts.
Right.
Like bumping into somebody. What they said they probably said never happens. I don't like to say never because you never know what's going to happen. But they said never do they have head-on collisions in a roundabout.
And nobody dies.
Nobody dies. And one of the things it reads in that article I gave you, 37% less accidents with a roundabout over a stoplight or a stop sign, 90% less fatalities with roundabout over stoplight or stop signs. And they're doing this study, and they said it saves lives, much safer, lower accident, generally no head-on accidents, and they're doing a 5-year study on this, and I thought that was very interesting. And you couldn't have walked out the door 5
This is the
minutes,
right time, huh?
and you just missed all of this, and it was very interesting. They had emergency medical services on there. They had they even had the workforce development and higher education. They've proven that higher education gives better jobs. We all, I think,
all knew
pretty
that.
much know that. But they're going to do a study on all this stuff for transportation.
You weren't privy to the 2 wrecks then? 4H Road
Right.
and
I
Highway
didn't know about
73.
them.
I'm there.
But 20th
Car
Street.
upside down.
20th Street. If that would have been a roundabout, maybe that wouldn't
And
happen.
right
I'm
down
not
the-
saying it wouldn't. I'm just saying maybe it would.
But right down at the end, there was a tractor trailer across the northbound lane of 73
Well,
on the same day.
I think
Same quick
73, this is a very expensive statement I'm going to make, but I think every one of them intersections that got the stoplight, it's getting about time to do a flyover on them, build a,
It's true.
If 73 is going to be a major highway to the city, we can't load it up with stoplights. But
I just thought I'd report back to
Good.
the meetings that we were at, and something that
Thanks for
pertains
doing
to us.
And it also pertains to what we're getting ready to jump into.
Right.
So if we're done now, I guess we'll go on to the work session.
Yeah.
Okay.
I move to-
Motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll take a little recess and then we'll get into the work session. Sorry we're running behind, folks, but it just happens. Looks like we got some good quality people here to participate in our discussion.
If I leave my papers here,
I'll watch it.
I'm
Got to stretch.
Yes, I do.
Ed, I didn't see you back there. Wow. I should notice before.
Well, lost.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Oh, somebody's in there.
No, that's speed them up. There you go. That's how it works, David. I was watching from afar, Mr. Clinton.
Yeah, okay, I can turn it back
I
on.
was watching.
Yeah,
I would have jumped over that table if anybody would have tried to encroach upon your space.
yeah, mini homes left. Mini homes left.
I figured mine at 3. So I figured mine well, yeah, mine's only 1.5%, and I think that's 20%. We don't know what's
Are we going to receive some new handouts?
Yeah, put it in your packet, and then we're
You
gonna go
got the
through
numbers,
everything.
you just want roads, so.
Well, I don't have the road. That's gonna be David.
Yes, I'll give you. You guys stay up there?
Hmm?
You guys want to sit down?
We don't have enough chairs.
No, that's right.
We can, we probably better so people can hear us.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
No, I've got a bunch of copies.
I didn't know he had his name.
Oh,
Oh.
did you ask for the sheriff deputy to be here? please.
I told him we could put a sticky.
You know, and that was something I was going to bring up. Having meetings, televised in all the departments. I don't know, it may be good in his case. Yeah. I'll bring some glue. We'll get those kids.
Yeah, they all do. I'm just telling you, mine does it.
Yeah, mine probably does it. But to have them broadcast to where I think it occupies time for people to listen.
We make copies.
I can understand the kid.
More copies of this one?
Yeah, because I think some people might want that.
We don't let them listen.
We have to figure out, we got that new copy. Copy. Want another copy? Well, I just figured somebody needed one.
I've got it set at their desk.
Well, quite a few out there.
Did we, were you asking her to make copies? Yes. Thank you very much. Oh, but
It doesn't. I put my feet up on it.
I'm getting some copies made.
We got some here?
Yeah.
don't give him a copy. John,
I got her making some.
she's making more copies, so. Yeah.
We're gonna have a tornado in here. Becky, you get that?
Becky, you turn that up. Thank you.
Well, oh, that's all. I think we got that. Pass these out. I don't care.
I noticed on your list of roads, some of them are dim ink and some are bright. Is that-
I don't have a color copier that prints this. Some of them are highlighted, some of them have different color text.
Okay,
That's why it looks-
that's the color,
Yeah,
okay.
I don't have a color printer that prints.
I thought those were.
That list is that's the road count from 2016, 250 or higher. They're on that list.
Okay.
And that's the magic number where you better start doing something.
No, it has to be lower, but it's like right at 250. It's the highest.
Pretty much are all.
It'd be nice to see what district these roads.
Yeah.
Most of them are in the 30s.
We'll go ahead and start our work session on the sales tax projects. Thank the people for staying. I'm glad the public's here, and I'm glad there's some contractors here to represent the contractor side of the road building. I guess, David, we'll start. Mr. Clemens made the comment the other day about 25 miles of road, and these are the highest traffic counts.
Yeah, the list I provided is based on the 2016 traffic count. This is the list of over 250 or higher that are on this list. There's, I think, about 50.
This list here?
Yeah. Yes. There's like 50 plus road segments on there that are over 250 cars per day on.
I think I'm going to disagree with you already, but go ahead.
Well, it's the count that we took with our two counters in 2016. That's the list.
It's not that big a deal to recount. If you have some questions or concerns, we can recount these at any time. That's not too much trouble, is it, David?
No.
If we do another count. Because like I said, I know you're going to have, like, you showing Stranger Road, but that was because 207th Street was closed.
Right, and I've got some notes on there. Some of these counts, some of these roads were very high, and, you know, I think 3 or 4 of them I marked on here, K32 Bridge.
Right.
Because those counts were just off the chart.
Mhm.
We assumed they were wrong because of that bridge being closed.
Yeah. But there's still quite a few roads.
The
Are
second-
these ranked in order of the
Yeah,
highest?
No, the 250's at the top, and then the count gets higher as you go down the page.
Okay, so 163rd is
Had like 250 cars.
250, and Mackey is higher.
Yes.
Okay, very good. I got the sequence.
But like I said, Mackey was more than likely because the K-32 bridge was
Right.
closed when he did that, and everybody's cutting
Right.
through there.
Got any of these in the second district, you know, because I'm going to have to fight for second district. I think we have, what,
You've already fought the fight. You got, what, 9, 10 miles of gravel
There
road?
may be a few of them in second district here.
So we're going to do half of your roads, Louis.
Yeah.
they're all my roads.
Yeah. But what we were talking about earlier, I think, on a cost share, I mean, I guess we need to break this down a little further to see what's closest to the cities, to see if any of these roads would be qualified as cost sharing with cities.
I think that's a good idea.
Because, I mean, that's where the traffic is, too. That's where you're going to, but I'm trying to stretch dollars here. I mean, it's going to benefit the city as well as the county. But the rural residents, we are their voice. They don't have the city representing them, so I'm all about improving these roads. And
one of the
yes,
things-
a lot of them are in third district.
One of the things we recently talked about with the PRP program is the ability to move up the list by participation.
That's
So,
correct.
If there's a group that wanted to come in and I think we were talking about when we were talking about after somebody does a dust patch, that we would maintain it because in the long term it's less expensive for the county. And we talked about that with the PRP program, that if somebody came in and wanted to provide the cost for the dust patch portion, that then the county would maybe reevaluate that and move it up on their priority list. So I think we talked about it. So I think the idea of having a city participate, maybe that's how, if they have a project in here that they favor, that they'd like to see moved up in priority, they could do that via participation.
Yes,
So
that's,
not to, that it would never get done, but if they wanted it moved up on the list, that if they came in with a 50% match, or whatever the board decided would be a good match, that could then move that up in the priority list. Something along those lines might be reasonable.
Some years ago, I made the motion, it may not have been a motion, that like the Easton Main Street Road, the Baser Main Street Road, that we fix them up, but we also maintain them. See, it's like on McIntyre. Now, we have two, maybe this is going to be worked out, I don't know. Lansing owns, I'm just going to say the first half, we own the second half.
McIntyre.
McIntyre, thank you. That's also true with the county appraiser and the county administrator, so you got to keep working on that and correcting me, I can handle that. As long as I don't get my wife's name wrong. But how do we resolve that portion of who's maintaining that road?
We have an interlocal agreement.
You do have one? And who is maintaining it?
Lansing maintains what's inside their city limits,
And we maintain what's in our city.
what's outside the city.
Yeah, that's not very convenient. Personal opinion. To me, maybe we could have said Lansing. You take over the maintenance, maintaining the full road. And of course, they're going to dicker on the fact that, well, the last portion isn't under their, what do you call it? Their conditions that they want. But, well, we'll put the extra 2 inches for that 70-some thousand for removing that off our list for eternity. So just a thought process. Could have been done, or the sleeve, or who knows what.
The request for the additional asphalt, I believe, came in after the interlocal agreement was completed.
Yeah, but we can change the interlocal agreement. So it's just a point, I don't think that's the way to maintain McIntyre Road.
is your interlocal, is it like a 5-year interlocal agreement?
I'd have to pull it out of there.
It has a date, it has a a date that it has to be renewed.
Who maintains West McIntyre?
Lansing.
West of K7 is Lansing.
Yeah. So they're gonna have a grader blade going down there, moving snow. And the county may have one going down there with its blade up, but we can also do other roads down there, and then they lower it on our portion of great snow.
Mhm.
It's just a thought process, so.
Now, on 155th Street going through Bayshore, that's a county route. We're required to maintain that until they become a city of the second class, I
Yeah, that's
believe.
probably one of the reasons they're holding off. There's a lot of things, fire department.
Well, there's no benefit to going to a city of the second class until you're forced to at like 10,000, but the way rate Bayshore is growing, that's gonna be here sooner than you think.
So, okay. Some of the things on your financial portion, that's what concerns me.
That's where the, yeah. Do we have an engineer's estimate on Eisenhower?
I believe it's around 11 million.
11 million, okay. And we have, we can still bond up to 18 million. Is that correct? According to resolution 2000, was it 1541,
Right.
1441, something like that?
Yeah, we have approximately 18 million left in the $40 million worth of bond issuance.
Right.
Okay.
And we have a, I think, and Commissioner Klink wasn't on the board at the time, but I think it was in March, we had somebody with Varenberg, Greg Varenberg, come in with Piper Jaffrey and say that there's also the ability to issue bonds and use the excess revenue to pay the payments on them. If the excess revenue was not sufficient, then they would have to be general obligation bonds with the intent of using the excess revenue. So there's additional funds available if it had to be, if it came up, we could go above the 18 million, but it would not be revenue bonds. They would be general obligation bonds.
Okay. But according to that resolution, there's still a bonding room.
Yes.
And with the price of these last few projects coming in a lot lower than estimates, and hopefully Eisenhower will come in lower than estimates.
Well, as I go down this, 2019, 20, 21, 22, I see acquisition.
Yeah, that's what that is, the sheet Mr.
Yes.
Cliff's referring to. If the board desires to bond additional funds for additional projects, this is my draft schedule of my proposal of how we would proceed.
But that also moves out, in my opinion, should move out. If you don't have people on your road, don't want their road improved, back to the old thought process.
Then there are people out there that don't want their road improved.
So
We've run across that on PRP
somebody else moves up and
programs.
they move down.
Yeah, but do we want to let one or two property owners kill a project? I mean, if we identify a project is needed because of traffic.
Is needed, yes.
Do we want to let one or two property owners kill it?
Yeah, but I'm saying
We've
this-
already designed it.
Yeah.
This list here is already determined it's needed, because you've got traffic counts at 250
Yeah.
cars a day. You have got to start coming up with a plan.
But it
And
would-
at 300, you better have a plan. 350, you better start implementing your plan. It needs to be done before it hits 400.
147th Street, 147, is that what I'm looking at? By
Yes.
the cemetery?
147 behind what cemetery?
179.
179.
I'm looking at 179. How long has it taken to acquire that land?
Well, everything but two properties was finished last year, and then the condemnation process got stalled.
Yeah, see, so, how much time you gonna spend? Isn't there some more professional way of, we're going to condemn if we find that road is needed, but there has to be some faster way than a year.
I think there were some challenges with that one in that it went into
It went into probate,
it went
didn't
into
it?
probate, and
Yeah,
there's
someone passed
several
away.
people then that you have to serve. It's just not one, and you have to track down all those people. So that's some of why there was a delay. But, you just never know when you start those processes what you're going to run into. Something like that comes up and delays
And we
things.
see that with everything with the courts. You never know what you're going to run into. So, okay.
Well, I guess my next concern would be now that Mr. Van Perry's is not working on the sales tax project, how's his staffing going to work on getting these projects?
Well, listening to what you had brought up with planning and zoning, I would probably request that if outside counsel, or if somebody's hired, some outside counsel for planning and zoning, that person could also assist in public works.
But we also decided that may not be the direction to go. We wait till we need them.
Well, but in the interim, I think we could you could get some price quotes from some attorneys that could work on an on-call basis until we get it. I mean,
Well, right now with the Eisenhower, we're pretty much done. Mr. Van
Right.
Paris will continue to work
Right.
on that and finish it. So these other projects are still, I mean, not to get you too riled up there, Commissioner, but they're probably at least a year out before we get to the point where we would need to do some of the property acquisition.
well, that's
Because we're
closer than it was last week.
Because if we went forward with this plan,
Yeah.
I'm not that it's delaying, it's just, so we probably have a little
No,
bit of time. But I agree with, and I've said this multiple times, if we're gonna take on these projects, this is over and above what we're already doing with staff.
That's what I'm
And
doing.
that's why they end up getting stalled or delayed. We need to adequately provide for staffing to do these as well. So we can't expect necessarily that Mr. Luchin's staff has the ability to do the design and inspection on these
No, they do
things.
not.
Therefore, we would want to work with that as professional services on any of these projects. And if we get to that point that we feel like we cannot keep up with our current legal staff, then absolutely we would come back to the board and ask for additional staffing. to
And
help
the
with that.
additional
Additional
staffing-
resources, maybe not staff, but a
Wouldn't call it
contractor.
full-time staffing.
Right.
Okay, and the additional resources could be paid for out of the sales tax money if they're working solely on these
As long
projects?
as it's for those projects, sales tax related projects, yes, that's correct.
Then I don't see how that would impact the mill levy or anything. So,
And now, my thought process, as I presented the other day, is we don't build these roads.
that's correct.
That's, yes, and that's something that's just let's talk about overall philosophy regardless of the sales tax projects, and that is that whether we really have the staff and resources to build roads versus maintaining roads, and would we be better served maintaining them?
Right.
And then when a road needs to be built, I won't list any of them, but let's just say there's a road that's identified that needs to be redone, that we not do that internally, but we have that as part of the project. We just have to fund somebody else to come in and do it.
Right.
So our guys can continue to maintain what we already have.
And this will, by improving these roads, will require some more maintenance, because you're not gonna be able to let a hard surface road fall apart like you do a gravel road and then come in there and reshape it up and go on.
Right, but it also requires less ongoing maintenance, like
Yeah.
every time it rains and stuff like that.
But
where you
you've got a small window of opportunity to
It's true.
maintain asphalt roads where you can
Absolutely.
maintain gravel year round. But at the same time,
Our yearly budget for items, we have to.
And it will.
Bumped up.
and by hard surfacing these roads, I'm sure you're going to see more money coming in to the county. I mean, people want good roads.
I saw, and I couldn't find the report, about communities, small communities going to, maintenance is done by outside companies. They're going for bids.
Yeah.
You know, is that something immediately? No, but if it's something to keep in your head that, well, what is the advantage? And you always hate to mention this advantage, but how many employees do you have?
Within all areas, roughly
70 employees.
That's not the road department.
No, it's everything.
He's counting the transfer station, he's counting buildings and
How many road and
grounds.
bridge?
50,
50?
yeah.
That's a lot of money to maintain roads. That could be.
We have
And you don't want to look
Yeah.
at, that's not something that's here, but it's something to keep in the back of your mind, that maybe there's an advantage somewhere of having somebody outside, you know. We've stayed at around 400 employees for a long time. which is not necessarily bad, but, you know, that's just like jails and, they're farmed out somewhere. If you're going to keep looking out for the taxpayer, it's things that have to be looked at. But that's nothing to do in the next 14 months, okay?
No. These roads are, though.
Yes, they are. So we're looking at money-wise.
Yes, sir.
That's the aspect. So where are we going to be money-wise to be able to handle 20 to 25 roads in Eisenhower? Of course, we say the money's our, no. There's money there for Eisenhower, but, you know, it keeps getting put off, and that bothers me. That should have been #1 road.
To complete Eisenhower, we're going to need roughly, about $8 million more in bonds to finish Eisenhower.
Extra above what we have?
Yes. To get all 3 projects finished, we're going to need roughly.
An additional 8 million.
Okay, once the bids come back, and the 21, or 20 to 25 will be in the same bid package, are they going to be able to bid separately? Well, I only want to do Eisenhower, and I don't want to do...
I'm not sure if we could bid it the way, I haven't figured out how we can bid that many projects that haven't been designed, haven't been...
God, there's some people out there, 20, 25 roads, and Eisenhower, man, they're out there.
So on the said Eisenhower side, it's already being designed.
Yeah.
That one's already being worked on. On the 20 to 25 additional, what exactly are you wanting to bid? You're just wanting to throw it out to A contractors, engineers, here's 25 roads.
And this 25 roads we want to do, we want to know what your bid is to do these to our standards, or what?
Yeah, we have to get some parameters.
You're talking about a design build.
Design build.
Okay.
I've never had a problem with design build.
Just not sure how you would address utility relocation, right-of-way acquisition.
We're going to have people going to look into that, aren't they?
Well, until you start negotiating with people and do appraisal, well, you don't even know how much you need until it's designed.
Property acquisition.
I think there might be an opportunity to establish a program, and this is just because it's a work session, we can openly discuss some ideas here. Maybe you take the approach that we go out for proposals from firms that can do this kind of work and say, over the next few years, we're going to have 25 miles worth of roads to do. We'd like your proposal on how we're going to handle that. And then we contract with one firm to handle it. And it's because it's at least a 2 to 3 year process to do that many miles of roads. Even if you get a big firm, that's a lot of roads for them.
That's a lot of roads.
So I think if we, maybe the idea is you narrow it down to a few firms that we believe are qualified to do the work. And then we select one of them to actually do the work. And then they just work with Public Works on, here's our priority list for this year. You guys come and give us your price. Here's our priority list. And the design and whatnot would still have to be coordinated with Public Works. I mean, they have to do that. But they could be, the firm could be responsible for the design, but they would have to work with Public Works to meet. So they're not actually giving us a bid on XYZ road. They've given us a bid that we'll do the work at this rate, we'll commit this many people to it, whatever we need to. Well, that's parameters that David's staff would have to line out. But then that we're not going out for bid. They know, as a firm, they're going to do all the work, but we don't know exactly the cost of each project. We just start working through them until we run out of money. We get all the ones that are prioritized and work our way through them until we're out of funds.
I hate to see it limited on contractors, because how many local contractors do we have?
Well, but you don't limit it until, you start out with the process just like we would any solicitation, where everybody has the ability to apply, and then we work it down to these 3, and then from those 3, this is the one we're going to use for these projects.
Yep.
If you want to speed the process up, because that's kind of the design build. All you're doing is coming in and saying, we have $25 million, we want these projects done, can you do it? And then it's up to them to figure out how to get it done for $25 million.
Yeah.
Whereas the flip side of that, we could get one contractor that we're going to work with, and that would, I think, expedite the process.
Any contractors got a comment on the design build portion of these roads, projects, how you'd handle utilities? I know that the county would have to do the property acquisition. I mean, once somebody designed it, we would know what our construction limits would be, stuff like that, that we'd have to negotiate. And it would be up to the county to, if we had to, go to eminent domain.
Right.
But does anybody have any pros, cons on design build on a secondary road?
I'm Mark Limer Construction. You know, I guess it's your preference, but if you want more bang for your buck, you're going to bid out 1 or 2 streets
That's correct.
to engineers and let them do the work to put it out for bid. You know, the more bidders you have, the cheaper prices you're gonna get. If you wanna raise your price and get rid of the money real quick, do it your way, Louis. You know, because that's what's gonna happen. You're gonna take a $25 million firm. How many is there in the Kansas City area that's going to basically maybe spend $500,000 to bid your project? How many people's gonna do that? You know,
And I think your 2 or 3 roads is what we'd really be looking at.
well, that would, in my opinion, be your smart way to do it. You know, you bid out your engineering, you get, you know, your cheapest price. You don't have to use low bid, but you get the best bid for your buck. Let them do the work for you, and they can even put the job out for bid. And the key thing is to make sure that the utilities are moved before they put it out for bid.
We're running into that.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And like I said, it takes 18 months to get utilities out of the way. I think that's the safe.
What Mark suggested kind of goes along with my draft proposal. If we just do a group, get that group going, start another group, and we just step them through the process.
Yeah, that's just my opinion.
Okay. And then design build, if it was a specific project, I guess.
I don't think design, I mean, most of our projects are pretty straightforward. I don't think you're gonna see a lot of advantages to doing a design build on our type of project. It's not like a building where there's a lot of different ways you can go with the building. You gotta put a culvert in, you gotta put a culvert in.
Right. Yeah.
Craig Cos with Lexico. We've been involved in a lot of the design builds for the federal government for Kansas City, Missouri. There are ways to put it out there. It is tougher with utilities, of how you address utilities. But there's ways to put it out that we want a road designed to a certain speed limit. You know, provide some minimal survey information to the contractors. You don't have to come up with a complete design. Obviously, there are ways to minimize utility relocations, but may run up the cost of construction. You know, maybe we put in a retaining wall or stabilize the slope or something instead of relocating an expensive utility. It's nice to get different ideas out there of how to do it, but on the other hand, it's hard to be able to compare apples and apples to make sure everybody is bidding something that's going to work and something that isn't going to cause future maintenance costs to the county. But I don't know that putting out 25 miles of road all in one package is probably the best idea. I think, as Dave says, you know, if you kind of group them, you know, maybe put out 5 or 10 or whatever number, and probably after you put those out and do them, you're going to probably learn a little bit of maybe what to change on the next group that you put out, and
Well,
that way.
I think starting out with 3 would be great. Get them going and just do it like that, see how it goes. I know that what we're thinking, I mean, I'm thinking on the design build is to speed the process up. But I guess I'd like to hear from Mr. Herring here in a little bit on some of that. But
And I think it will speed the process up, especially if you put a completion time on it.
yeah.
Again, you're going to be.
But we're also looking to stretch our dollars also. We got to do what we can.
But if you're waiting on water or whoever to move their water line and they're 8 months to move it and nobody else can touch it, then you're going to wait on that.
The design standard's going to be is different on.
Kind of like
all these roads.
147th Street.
Well, McIntyre too. Yep.
McIntyre too.
But again, you almost have to get some standards of what the county
Right.
wants if you're going to put it out
Well, it's
there.
going to depend on, I guess, the historical data on if the traffic count's been the same for the last 10 years or if it's doubled in the last 2.
Right. But I guess my point is you need to limit the steepness of slopes. You know, we don't want anything steeper than a 3-to-1,
Right.
2.5-to-1 to slope. We want all the storm designed to a 50-year or 100-year rain event, things like that too, to where everyone's kind of on the same page.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Mr. Herring, you got any input on design? If you get more bang for your buck out of 3 to 5, or how many?
Just listening and watching everything that the county has spent.
Who are you?
Joe Herring, Herring Surveying.
We're in a work session.
Oh, this is the county surveyor. Okay, you're coming as county. Okay.
Watching a lot of money get spent on 3 roads, you know, probably not needed. I'm talking about the 3 sales tax projects. I watched a lot of money get wasted on these projects in the initial start. I've been talking with Steve Blazer, and I have a list here. This is stuff that you guys did in the 2000s and one other time. Here's a list of projects. Now, these projects weren't engineered. They were just roads that were, you know, close to being built. They went out there, they were surveyed for center line and right of way. They did the dirt work.
I'm fully aware of it.
You know these?
I do.
And
Actually,
we just put a couple of them together just to let you guys go out and look at, the ones that weren't here in office, that aren't aware of them, go out and look at the projects that were done. I don't know if any of these roads fit that criteria. When you get up to 250 trips per day, 300 trips per day, you know, your design criteria might be different. But if you want to get some roads done, and a lot of them done, you know, this is one of the ways we need to go and look at it. Not all the roads
I
are
think
going to
Mr.
fit.
Clinton was out touring roads yesterday and had some roads that he ran across, I think.
I mean, they lay almost perfect, ready to go. There was one that was done in my neighborhood. It didn't need to be adjusted. It just needed to be chip and sealed. But we spent a lot of time, a lot of money, and it just wasn't necessary. That road could have been done 10 years ago. I think you look at that way, and it's a combination of projects. You're going to have the ones that you're going to have to design build. You're just going to have to. The ones closer to the city.
Right.
I mean, but if you want to look at the project and look at the overall, don't limit it to one company. Get some on-call contractors. You got 3 of them sitting in the audience right now. Get them to give you an hourly rate, you know, get them on board and let them handle it. And just see what kind of product they can turn out. I guarantee you'll like them. So my thoughts is don't over-design it, don't overthink it. Let's get some hard surface roads out there and leave the utilities, like Greg said, you know, work around the utilities.
If you just chip and seal, and I can't think what it was, it's an east-west road that led into a road of controversy to the south of Falcon Lakes. But
Holland, well, that's
I don't
north
know,
of Holland.
this road is so perfectly flat. I mean, you could go in there and chip and seal it today. They were a mile and a half maybe. It was just unbelievable. We're driving down it. He's giving me the sales pitch, but I thought, I don't know the traffic count on it, but it led to the one that had the, I think it was when his nephew that came in on a road project where you were going to do some just south of Falcon Lakes.
Oh, are you talking about Donahue? The new Donahue that's not open? Or Donahue that cuts through to 155th from
Could be Donahue.
147th?
Yes.
It's just a dirt road, a field road, minimum maintenance road?
No, this has gravel. Doesn't matter.
Oh, Hollingsworth North.
Has to be Hollingsworth.
It has to be
North
Hollingsworth
side of
North.
Falcon Lakes.
It's only got 1 mile that's not
Right.
No,
hard
it's-
surface. It's not on this list, is it?
This is
It
on
didn't
the
have a
south
traffic
side. Doesn't
count.
matter. But this road is
Did
just
I
perfect.
miss it, David?
Well, I think this is a typo. It says east of 147.
Oh, okay, all right. It's there.
This road is just perfect, like you're saying. It doesn't need to be over-engineered, over-designed. It has pretty good width to it. I could take you out there and show you where the road is, but it's a perfect road. Now, I don't know if it qualifies road count and the other things we're throwing in. So, but that is a good point. We go in and now we're going to take out the curves, the hills and the dales and hit me with what that's called from California. Slough off, or what is that engineering design, Ashlough?
Oh, ASHTO standards?
Yeah, Ashto. I'll never memorize that one. I don't want it in
We
my
have standards,
brain.
we have to design roads.
Yeah, and if there are certain roads that need that, that's fine. But that throws a heck of a price tag in. Do you raise McIntyre, lower McIntyre, you do this, that? That gets into big money.
You also
Yeah.
have curves, warning signs.
Well, that's what I said. Any
Vertical curve,
lack of
horizontal
engineering or bad engineering can be controlled with signage.
Yeah.
So
I'm not saying it's
that's
the best
I'm not
fit,
saying
but
that's
it's
right,
good.
but I'm saying
Yeah.
that's what happens a lot.
Okay. Thank you.
I think you got another candidate there too, 182nd, sounds like it fit right in this plan here.
Yeah, I saw
It's on here.
that. 108.
Oh, well, the 537 on south of 24 is, that's a little different animal because of the traffic count. That one's got to be built to a little better standard because you're at 537, is that what it was?
Something around there.
Yeah, you're over 500. That one there has got to be a little better standard. But with that being said, you got how many holdouts? You still got holdouts
I
on
don't
that?
think we got any.
We don't have,
We're waiting on.
okay, so as long as we don't have any holdouts, then we can go forward.
There's 5 people that I have not received easements from down
Okay.
If we settle that too fast, it cuts down on the amount of people that are going to participate in the meeting.
What
So
if,
we don't want to resolve that because those guys.
well, but this one here, it's over the threshold of pain on the traffic. We've got to, on this one, we got to fix whether, if we got to go to condemnation. So I guess what's the date limit we want to give for condemnation, to start condemnation?
there. If the board desires, I mean, that 182nd is not in our 2018 budget.
Right.
If the board would like to, we could make that a sales tax project and proceed. Right now, but
Well, I know, but I'm just going by the traffic count. It's past the low volume road standard.
I will say, any road we go to condemn on,
Mm-hmm.
I will take you to her. I want to mentally prepare myself for
Okay.
who's laying out. And I
Right.
know we can't go in the same vehicle,
No, sir.
so,
It sounds like you're doing pretty good on your own.
yeah. Okay.
But no, like I said, that one there, we've got to fix that road. It's past the 400 cars a day for a low volume road. Huh? Oh, you don't want to fix it? Mr. Cross?
One thing I'd like to bring up too, secondary roads are very important, and Doug touched on it a little bit earlier, but wouldn't it be nice if we could improve the access to an interstate from Leavenworth or Lansing? And I'm not saying the county should do this, but just like you want city participation, KDOT would love to have county participation. And there's basically 3 ways that we have a shot of improving our access to an interstate. One is Centennial Bridge, which has been talked about, but somehow we would have to get Missouri on board, which is going to be very, 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 very difficult to do. So that almost limits us to either improving K7, K73, or improving K5. So I guess I would like at least some thought to be of, can we save some of the tax money to maybe do a match with the state? And whether we do flyovers, as you had mentioned, Doug, on, McIntyre or Donahue or whatever roads, or whether we do a improvement on K5. K5 is not a very long stretch to improve. I think it's probably, I'm just going off the cuff, but I would guess 3-4 miles if you improved it from the end of McIntyre, which you're already improving, to Walcott. It's not that long a stretch, really. It's an ugly stretch. But, if that road could be improved for $20 million, and the county all of a sudden would say, hey, KDOT, we'll put in 20%, what would that do for the county? That would affect Lansing, it'd affect Leavenworth, it'd affect everybody in District 1, that goes to Kansas City.
It also affects Wyandotte County, so I think Wyandotte County would participate in that also.
I mean, it's just, I guess I want to think a little bit outside the box before we do all the county roads are important too, don't get me wrong.
There's a lot of Wyandotte County money real close to that.
But yeah, I mean, is there a way, I think we stand a better chance of working with KDOT and Wyandotte than Platte County.
And that's true, and I know David works with KDOT on a lot of things, and I know a lot of faces have changed over the last few years. And do you see KDOT's funding increasing any?
Not in the
No.
You don't see it?
I'm going to complain on you. You left out another set of berries when you're talking about dealing with Missouri on the bridge. You should have said one more very, 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 because when you talk to Chappie, what has he been on there, 50 years? Dealing, because there's no votes there. They don't care. There's no votes.
Right.
So it's all about votes.
But somehow we need to be looking 10 to 20 years down the road. The sales taxes for 20 years. We've got to improve our access to an interstate or we're going to die on the vine.
Well, there's certain places where you can put the, what do you call the accessory road that runs parallel? Certain places that you can do that.
You're talking about doing frontage roads along 7th Highway?
Or you could be, and I'm sure the state has looked at that. Some places it's very hard to do that because you're not only putting in that road, you're putting maybe a bridge. So it gets complicated.
Right. And is that the way we go? I mean, to improve 73, or you better, I mean, if you had a super 2-lane, like 73 is north of town on K5, that would relieve some traffic off of K7.
Right.
But I just think I think we really need to be looking at our access to an interstate. In addition, county roads are important, don't get me wrong, the secondary roads are, but that would just be huge for the county if we could improve that
One
access.
thing bothers me about 5 is the state wants us to take that over.
Oh, no, we don't want to do that.
And we never want to do that. Leavenworth can never afford that.
Unless the state builds another super highway somewhere, then they could make you take it over.
Yeah, and I don't think you want to take it over, but I mean, if we could they've replaced US 73 once, did major construction back in the 80s.
Right.
If we could have taken some of that money and maybe put it towards an improvement on K5, I think a lot of people would see benefit from that. So.
But them type of projects, like you said, is going to take a man from the state.
Yeah. But the state's
I don't know how far behind on their list of projects they are or not with the funding problems they've had.
I mean, there's funding problems. They're going to continue to have funding problems until probably elections, until we get some different leadership there. But I feel very certain that there will be groups that once the leadership changes, will be looking at funding mechanisms to get more funding back to KDOT.
Do you see anything happening with Federal Highway?
I think you're going to see some money.
Well, that was my feeling. I don't know what commissioners, if you follow Federal Highway much. I think
Federal Highway would be better chance.
There's probably a better
KDOT.
chance.
And it may be a combination of Federal Highway, state, Wyandotte County, Leavenworth County.
Right.
But we want to have the money when the time comes to,
We don't want to spend all of our tax dollars beforehand and then come up with this project, and then we don't have any funding.
exactly.
But we could be looking at in 2038 on the next 1 year or 1 cent sales tax.
Will you be lobbying for that?
I'll be dead.
Probably both will be.
Yes, Ken?
Yeah, Ken Miller with the City of Lansing. And just to echo what Greg just said, I guess I wouldn't count out KDOT. We know what kind of shape they're in right now, but they've got to come up with another 10-year plan because the current one ends in
Right.
2020. You know, whether it's an infusion of federal money, you know, like we saw 8-9 years ago, I would say let's be prepared if possible, whether you're talking about McIntyre being your extension to 435 or not, be prepared with some money that you could use to match, because the feds might come up with money and KDOT might come up with money, and they're going to have public meetings probably in 2019 to start asking those questions again.
And I think a lot of communities got a lot of T-Works money
That's
because
right.
they had projects on the shelf ready to go.
They've had three successful comprehensive highway program,
Right.
CT, you know, whatever you want to call it. They're probably going to, especially if the leadership just does change a little bit, they're probably going to try that again.
But,
That's
I mean,
if leadership changes.
But you gotta have shovel-ready
Which I hope it
projects to
does.
present. You've got to spend the money ahead of time just to have your projects on the shelf.
Right.
I mean, if you're gonna grab that money as soon as it's available, you gotta have it ready.
No, we've always done that with bridges. We've always had bridges. Oh, every time I served, somebody'd say, we don't want our money in BOCC or Mel or whoever who's next on.
I don't think they're.
You wanna go down the whole list?
I don't know, I don't think they know who you're talking about.
Former county engineers, let's go, Mike Soxy,
Yeah,
Mel
but the thing
Hedrick,
is,
Harvey
we
Lever.
had a bridge, we'd say, hey, we got a bridge, and we'd get the money from the state, and that was good.
That were the good old days.
Yeah.
I think the days of 80-20 are over.
Yes.
And so if we can show, I don't know, 50-50, I think that moves our project up, maybe past some of those Johnson
50-50
County
would move it
projects
up,
that are
I'm
going to
pretty
get
sure.
money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank
So,
you.
okay.
Thank you, Ken. Anybody else got anything to offer on our work session on this? Commissioners, what do you think? Think we need to pick 3 to maybe get started on?
I think I'd like Public Works to pick 3 and bring them to us.
Well, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Approve 3.
I don't want to approve 3 right now.
No, basically it needs to go by traffic count.
Yeah, I'd like Public Works to go forward with this and bring it back to us.
Or maybe 3 easy ones.
You're right, something that's not too difficult, so we get our feet wet.
Got several that are in design right now that, yeah, maybe we could move to the top and start using sales tax. But yeah, probably, we'll put together a list, and I mean, we'll basically take this list and probably put like 2025 together, so the board wants to move forward.
As much as we need to do 182nd, I don't think that's going to be an easy one to start with.
The design's pretty much complete, we're almost complete with right-of-way acquisition.
But we don't have all the property acquisitions.
But no, I've got 5 left to acquire on that one. But I mean, once that's done, we can start getting utilities moved. I mean, that one could feasibly be constructed next year.
Do you see us having to go to court to get those 5 acquisitions?
At this point, I couldn't say yet.
Because that's a slow process.
Is that a road we need to go to court on?
It's got a very high traffic count, that's one
Okay.
thing.
But if we can get it without going, it would speed the process up.
You're dealing with.
If we put it on the list.
Yeah, but you know, that tree was there when my grandfather moved in on the farm, and you know.
It never grows clear to the sky, though. It has to come
Yeah, it
out
does.
sooner or later. No, it doesn't.
Oh, God, yes. Lay underneath it and just pray.
And when that tree blows over in the middle of the night, who do they call?
Yeah, the county,
It
because
blocks
it's in the county road.
It's in the county road, so.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to come up with 3 roads. If they can be easy roads, that's fine. I really like to figure out which road that is. I mean,
It's probably, the only one I can think of you're talking about would be Donna.
and it's,
Nobody lives on it.
Or you just,
yeah, nobody lives on it.
That's
and-
Donahue.
And
You're
very
right there by
little,
the water tower?
very little fencing. And the problem is, it leads from a good road on the west, but does not,
Yeah, we'll hook up to 147. once
yes,
it's done.
it will hook up to 147. But I bet you they got, how many miles is that?
just a mile.
Just a mile.
I bet that can be done for 150,000. I mean, it's,
Yeah, but there's no traffic on it.
I understand.
Right, there's no traffic count.
And there wouldn't be any till 179th comes on down. So,
Or 147.
147, yeah, 179th. That rings a bell.
I think if it connected all the way through, you'd see a lot of, if it would.
If they've got all the way to 773.
Yeah, it does. If it went all the way through, that'd be a different road. So, okay, I think that's a good idea.
You need to get out and get on some more roads.
No, I'm getting on I-70 to the peak.
Okay, is that a consensus then? David,
Here it
come back?
is.
Is that fine? Okay.
Is anybody here from Baser? No. Because, you know.
Mark is, Mr. Lawfrey, Mr.
Well,
Lujan.
Anybody from Baser going to any state operations? You know, Lovemart's going, Lansing's going. I got a granddaughter going, I won't mention her school because it's not in
The girls, you mean like girls volleyball?
Yeah.
Girls volleyball, boys soccer?
Yeah, God, isn't that nice? Wow.
Still cross country, girls.
Cross country, yeah. Well, a whole lot of stuff going on. So get out and drive the roads and go to these playoffs, you know? Okay.
Don't think any of our gravel roads lead to the playoffs. You need a new Garmin. But,
Garmin, what's Garmin?
yeah, really.
Okay.
Anyways, are we ready to adjourn the work session?
I don't have
All right.
anything else.
Well, I want to thank everybody for coming and their input. Appreciate you taking your time out of your day to be here. So,
Yep.
thank you.